Sorry about that. I had to adjust my fan, dude. Roasting up here.
Oh, he's roasting and toasting.
Wow, you're right. This trailer is trash.
Yeah.
Look closer.
Yeah, man.
That's funny that they say look closer in the trailer. That's something I'm going to touch on.
You see a pathetic man.
He's a spiritual 15-year-old.
Yeah, okay. Is that the
What's going on, everybody? What a great masterpiece we're dissecting today. Oh, man.
Yeah.
Is this my new favorite movie? All right. All right, that's enough of that trailer, that god-awful trailer for this god-awful movie. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Super Movie Monday, Monday Movie Night, Monday Movie Club. I'm Nikki. Joining me is the OG panel. We got Jason, we got Josiah, we got Static. This week's movie is American Beauty from 1999. From director Sam Mendes, this movie got an astonishing 8.3 out of 10. Not sure how. And won over 60 awards. Yeah, I want to question the validity of that rating as well. I'm going to open it up with a little... with my notes. I actually wrote notes for this one. I do that when I'm real passionate about a movie. Let's see. I know I gotta... Let's see. Right there. There we go. American Duty. American Beauty is a glimpse into a godless, selfish suburban existence. A film that... And then I stopped writing notes there. And then I continued here. That's how I write notes. Okay. Kevin Spacey plays Lester Burnham, a hypocritical, immature weakling of a man, a walking contradiction in the worst way. He complains about a loveless marriage with a materialistic wife, a child that wants nothing to do with him. And this is all a life that he's led his family to. He decides to start working out when he finds his... He's in a midlife crisis, and he's attracted to his daughter's friend. Starts working out to try to fuck his daughter's high school best friend, and ends up smoking pot and eating fast food. Lester hates that his wife isn't attracted to him anymore, but instead of taking charge and being a man, he makes passive-aggressive remarks, whines like a little bitch, and makes effeminate gestures. Absolutely fitting, giving that Kevin Spacey is an uncloseted gay alleged predator. He's asked, "How are you?" at the end of the film by Angela, the child he's trying to screw. And he replies with, "It's been a long time since anyone's asked me that." But why would anyone ask him when he spends the whole movie pissing and moaning and bitching and whining and complaining? This movie starts and ends with a tacky monologue of Lester oh, I'm dead, and this is what my death meant, and this is what you can experience when you die. Get the fuck out of here. Lester Burnham's name, fun fact, and we could jump into this later, it's an anagram for Humbert Learns. Humbert is the pedophile character from the book Lolita. And in a similar lens, Angela Hayes, Hayes, is a play on Dolores Haze, Haze, the girl from the same book. This movie is an attempt at combining Office Space with Lolita while glorifying Lester Burnham as a character that is experiencing growth through his early 40s, but it falls flat in doing so, seeing as Lester Burnham is more feminine than his selfish bitch wife, Carolyn. And then I started forming a hit list of everyone responsible for this movie because I want to kill them. All right, who wants to go next? Who wants to go next with theirs?
I think Jason should go next.
Jason, that's a good idea. Jason, you ready, bud?
Yeah, okay.
You ready to come under fire for your suggestion this week?
Yeah, this is all my fault. I apologize. I had no idea it would trigger everybody this badly. I think we've been discussing this behind the scenes. I agree with a lot of your takes, and I even said I'm not a fan of this film because of sort of the surface portrayal. I'm more of a fan of the esoteric themes being explored. But my opening on this film is I view this film as sort of like a perfect time capsule. It's like a cultural commentary on the turn of the millennium erosion of the middle-class American dream culture and family life due to ignored personal undercurrents, warped value hierarchies, and unquestioned societal standards and influences. I think it's about hollowed-out souls snapping out of their hypnosis only to swerve recklessly the opposite direction into another hypnosis. And it's also about unfulfilled human needs and desperation underneath pristine superficial materialism. So we see how these people are sort of hypnotized in their material pursuits and the societal sort of norms, white picket fence, house, career, car, etc. But they've neglected something inside themselves. And now those things are bubbling up to the surface in the form of temptations, which lead them astray. However, I think this film does, no spoilers here yet, but at the end, it does sort of reach a climax where there is last minute realization and repentance, even though the consequences are, that moment will not stop the consequences. So I'm excited to get into this one. I want to share my thoughts on the roses, of course,
Yes.
the plastic bag, the inversion of masculine and feminine energies in Carolyn and Lester, Western esotericism like Rosicrucian ideas, the nature of advertisement versus reality. So you have sort of the sales pitch of a thing, the persona, the public image of a thing versus its sort of the actuality, the good, the bad, and the ugly. Also the law of alternating cycles, comfort and convenience based on denial versus the ugly truth of honesty, and the juxtaposition between order and chaos.
Excellent.
So,
Excellent. Who, Static or Josiah?
Why doesn't Static go
go.
next?
Let's go with Static.
Yeah,
Static.
so I agree with pretty much everything Nick said. I had seen this movie years ago, and I tried to rewatch it for tonight, and I couldn't even make it through the entire movie because I hated it so much. Part of it for me is I think it's really cliche. The whole like suburbia is a prison, and the white picket fence, but it's really rotting underneath it. I think I used that same metaphor when we were talking about Blue Velvet on Mella's panel. And I think Blue Velvet is a movie that had that kind of did that same thing, but did it several years before that and did it a lot better. One of the things that really bothered me about the movie wasn't so much the actual characters. It was this use of like slow motion and soundtrack or score cues to make you think that something's really deep when it isn't, when the script doesn't really justify that. So yeah, I'll get into that stuff more
Nice.
when we open it up.
Excellent.
That's it.
And Josiah. You ready, bud?
All right, thanks, guys. Yeah, I sure am, and I'm glad to be going last because I'm kind of in a mixture because I too feel like this is a cesspool of moral impurity, indicative of every '90s film, but I also know that it's fascinating. And tonight I'm going to say two very controversial things if you're not Orthodox. One will side with Nick, and one will actually side with Jason on their assessments of the movie. If you're not Orthodox, you might. I'm going to say my views don't necessarily align with those on the panel, so don't make that be a reason you don't come back here. But they will be very Orthodox related to why I like something and why I don't. But even what I like, I would like to step it up a notch. But one of the things that I'll be talking about, Jason, I'll be talking about colors and the flowers and some of the kind of cinematography things, and I'll be talking about one scene in particular and its significance in the movie. That's the famous one of the bag and the music surrounding that. So those are kind of going to be some of the places I'm going to go tonight. And then I have my big question that I want to ask, and I think that my answer to this is obvious in the way I worded this question. At one point, does Lester's awakening stop being admirable and start becoming selfish and irresponsible? So I think that's a question that we may ask. That probably tells you right there how I feel about Lester and about this film in general. But his awakening, which many people see as what started his change, I think the second part of what I asked is probably more in keeping with what I feel about it.
Excellent. Excellent. And I want to point out a fun fact about this movie. So earlier I mentioned it has an 8.3 on IMDb. It rated and I want to compare that to some of the movies we reviewed so far in the movie club, right? Some of the films we've analyzed. It rated the same as Doctor Strangelove, which is astonishing. It rated higher than Donnie Darko, which had an 8. Watchmen, that had a 7.6, and Marathon Man, that had a 7.4. I find this to be absolutely criminal and disgusting.
Yeah, Donnie Darko should be higher.
Donnie Darko should be way higher. This movie, I would rate it like a 4.0. 4 out of 10. Yeah, 4 out of 10. Would not watch again, and only watched it for this.
Lower.
Oh yeah.
Oh my god. You guys.
I think I don't know. The only redeeming thing to me really was following Ricky. Ricky Fitz's character. I think he provided the only redeeming parts to the movie, and everything else, man, it just made me mad. This movie, it follows that similar theme of like it was a popular thing in the 90s of like the revolt against the corporate work life, which I'm not defending corporate work structures or anything, but I mean, it was done so much in the 90s. You had Fight Club, you had Office Space, you had this piece of garbage, you had even The Matrix. Even The Matrix sort of had that, a little bit of that, you know, albeit it was corporate life in a fake world, but still, for this movie to be acclaimed as like such a cinematic, artistic masterpiece, yeah, I don't know. I kind of want to hunt down anyone involved in this movie, and I think I will.
60 awards.
Over 65 awards. 65 awards. Incredible.
Yeah.
Incredible how
5 Academy Awards. 5 Academy Awards too, yeah.
So Yeah,
Unbelievable.
An indictment on public perception, I guess, from Nick and Static's point of view.
I don't know whether I can trust movie ratings anymore, you know? This is a good argument not to. I'm just saying. But and I'll talk about it later, you know, when I ask everybody. Yes, it is a movie worth talking about. Because of the public's perception of it. But what's funny is when I was digging up images for this movie, half of it were from articles titled like, "Why did we ever think American Beauty was a good movie?" So, I don't know. Who wants to start deep diving first? Because I mean,
I'm ready to dive. Let's go.
Let's dive. Let's dive in.
All right. So I want to talk about the Burnhams first, the family, you know, Spacey and his wife and their daughter. So Lester, an emasculated man, a corporate cubicle cuck, driven to and from work by his wife. His daughter, the first line in the film, she says, "I need a father who's a role model, not some geek boy who's going to spray shorts whenever I bring a girlfriend over from school. Someone should just really put him out of his misery." So Lester, yeah, definitely not looking good right out the gate. Carolyn, the mom, she's a masculinized woman of action, entrepreneurial, worried entirely about appearance and material achievement. Neither Carolyn nor Lester find one another attractive anymore, or at least for the most part. They are both critical of each other. And their daughter, Jane, an alienated teen, is having private issues with her gender. She's in her bedroom on her Windows 95 AOL internet searching up breast augmentation. She has an Orgy Candy Ass poster on her wall, the band Orgy, the album Candy Ass. And anyone familiar with that album or that style of music from the turn of the millennium, these are like cross-dressers who sing about gender and stuff like that.
Oh, jeez.
So I see this as like, so we see how the parents' archetypal energies are both inverted, and it is having an existential effect on the psychology of the daughter.
Oh, damn. That is funny to point out. Yeah, I mean, all throughout this movie, and here's an argument I kind of want to get into with you, Jason. I would argue that Lester is the main character of the movie, and not only that, this movie tries to glorify him and make him look good, which is real crazy given that he's trying to fuck his daughter's best friend. Who's
Sure.
definitely a minor
In high
in the
school.
movie. In high school, yeah. Definitely a minor. His daughter's 16. I think it's safe to assume that she's also 16.
Yeah.
But I mean, even aside from that, I mean, through the whole movie, it's passive aggression. It's him, fucking bitch, like under his breath about his wife. Like, you're the perfect mom. I'm gonna get ice cream.
Yeah.
And it's funny. There was like one redeeming scene to me that it just totally self-defeated. And that's when he's playing around with the RC car, right? Mm-hmm. And he's making a move on his wife. He's like, "Honey, you look great." And he's getting ready to, frisk her up. He's getting frisky. And then she makes the comment about, "Honey, you're going to spill beer on the couch." And then he goes into a bitch fit. Like a very feminine man. But she's the problem. And she's the materialistic one, even though he just bought a new car as part of his midlife crisis. I don't know. What do you think? Does this movie try to paint him in a positive light?
So,
Absolutely.
well, I don't know if I think it's neutral. I think it's just showing two aspects of this concept of liberation. He feels trapped in a thing he doesn't like, and he's pursuing sort of a liberation of himself. However, he's doing it in a very bad, misguided way. He, rather than embrace, you know, stopping and correcting things and asserting sort of his masculine will as the patriarch of the family, making himself worthy of respect. You know, he's bitching that he's not respected, but it's like, bro, you're not even worthy of it. So no wonder, you know. So he's not correcting himself. He's trying to liberate himself from these structures ensconced around him in his life by basically giving up on all responsibility and obligation to anyone else, which is very toxic and very true to sort of this turn of the millennium midlife crisis that so many men and women had, that led to the divorce explosion that most millennials are familiar with. So I think because they are secular and they are middle class America, corporate life, career driven, all this stuff, materialist, that they don't have the tools to liberate themselves properly. You know what I mean?
Okay. Interesting. Static, what do you think? This movie tries to paint him in a positive light?
Yeah, I think so. I think it's I don't know if I don't know if it's trying to paint him in a positive light, but it seems like they're trying to make you root for him. If that makes sense. And
Yeah.
I think that his whole like Predator arc, it's never really resolved. It just kind of swerves away from it.
Yeah.
Like he just changes his mind at the last minute.
Right.
But
right.
I actually wrote down a question to ask you guys, and it's kind of related to that. Let me see if I can find it real quick. Yeah, so I wrote, is this a movie that critiques suburban male self-pity, or one that indulges in it?
It indulges in it, definitely.
Yeah, I would agree that it indulges for sure.
Yeah.
Yep.
Definitely. Yeah.
I think it would come across as critiquing it, but because they don't have God in the mix, it indulges in it.
Yes.
Right. I mean, honestly, we're going to find that a recurring theme in most of these movies, because if they had God in their lives, honestly, it wouldn't make for a very interesting movie.
Yep.
Yep.
Yeah. I mean, you know, most of your problems are resolved. You know, all your moral dilemmas.
Yeah.
It's like,
yeah. I say it in a particular way because I think the ending scene of Lester, he's so despicable, and I know, like, so many people are like, oh, he was changing so much once he started fantasizing about a young woman, and no, it was just transferring what he already was going through to, you know, something that's really twisted, and his whole monologue at the end is, you know, an image, and I would say an illusion of, you know, we as Christians have always believed that we find the beauty in the everyday life. We find the beauty in suffering. I mean, there's no greater example. This is going to be a controversial statement number one. We as Orthodox Christians definitely see the beauty of following a man who was beaten and bloodied and tortured, and, you know, definitely looking not the image of, you know, somebody who is polished like somebody in American Beauty, but absolutely, you know, ravaged. But they try to mimic that in a very a humanistic way of, well, I've come to this place because, you know, I overcame this because, you know, I didn't want to, she said she was a virgin, so I didn't want to defile that, but you were going to go ahead and boink this young woman anyway if she wasn't a virgin. And so that's what happens. That's the kind of moral logistics that people play when you don't have God in the mix. And I mentioned that in this movie just because it tried to moralize so much, like the 90s movies did, about this is so moral. And this is what leads to the problems we have today. Just like we'll get to the other issue I have with this movie in terms of how it makes something moral and that's twisted, like the '90s did. But that's one thing the '90s did typically in all the movies was like, we don't have to have God to have this, but he just, it turned out because she wasn't a virgin, and he was like, now my fatherly instinct turned on, but you were gonna boink her when she wasn't.
You're right, and I wasn't saying that as a jab at your comment. It was just something I was talking with my uncle about today, because I was telling him about the film club and or the movie club, and he was like, all these movies would be boring if they were Christians and they had their life figured out.
No, buddy, I 100% agree with that. No, I expand on that. I feel like in this movie it's particularly the case because it tries to come across as like lecturing us on this message of finding this beauty and everything, when even this guy at the end who's moralizing to us about this, had your situation been a little bit different, we would not be having this conversation.
Right.
It was over the fact that she was a virgin, not over the fact that you shouldn't boink somebody not married to, especially someone who's not of age.
Oh, for sure, and especially when you're already married. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
You're already married. Like, fix your marriage, dude. Fix yourself, because you're a weak, effeminate man with tiny shoulders.
Yep.
And you're disgusting. Shout out to everyone in the chat: Bill Hicks, Tony, Suzanne, old Clontarf. What's up, redhead? Film. Oh, where is he at? Hold on. So, apologies. I didn't see originally Clontarf. I switched to live chat instead of top chat. M. Film Trip, what's up, buddy? And he's making some good analysis. It was made at a time when pop culture was heavily sexualizing teenage girls and barely legal.
Yeah.
Also, the way he acts when he gets the chance to act on his fantasy puts everything in perspective. Josiah, to touch on what you said, though, and it related to what I was saying earlier, there were two really big recurring things with 90s movies, and that was The Office, Work-Life Rebellion, and I want to touch on what you wanted to talk about as well, the normalizing of the gays. And the only two people that had life figured out in this movie, the only two normal people, were the Jims. And you wanted to touch on that, right?
I do, yeah, and it's my huge pet peeve. Like, the '90s is what really opened the door to where we are now. I mean, that was like we had the Crying Game, we had My Own Private Idaho, Philadelphia, The Birdcage, TV shows like Ellen and Will and Grace, and all of these were like, oh, these are the funny ones, these are the good ones, and anybody who's against them is either homophobic, repressed, or just this evil, rotten person. And that was slowly set up over time, and that's why I look at this like it won all these awards. We awarded this movie for then getting us to this point where we are now, where we're fighting against this, great evil around us, which I said it was going to be controversial, and that is, where we do something that's really disordered and try to make it sound normal. And this movie, it was so insidious in the way that the gay couple was the only one who had it together. And then, of course, the person who was against their union the most vociferously happened to be the most evil villain of the movie, which happened in all the 90 movies. And anybody who opposed like a gay union, they were always the white men, usually Christian, and that was like the slippery slope that led us to today. And that's one of the things I look at this movie and say, I hate it so much because I see now, all these years later, where we are because of it.
And not to mention too, the person that was the worst. He was painted sort of as the villain of this movie, and that was Colonel Fitz, who was
the hero.
Well, I would say the hero. He also was a sodomite. He was.
That's true.
He was struggling to contain it, and he also saw his son in a situation as what he believed was giving head to Lester Burnham, and instead of going to whoop Lester Burnham's ass, he goes to do the same thing. So
And the insidious thing about that I hate about it is that then it tells you, like, anybody who has a problem then with a homosexual union, you must be a repressed gay,
Exactly.
or you're just evil.
Yeah.
And that's the message that those movies send. And when that scene happened with him and Lester, I was so furious this last time I was watching it, where I was like, here we are now in 2026, and because we accepted this, we awarded it, and people were like, oh, it means so much, and they had these, women were fawning over it, and men, but it's why we're here now.
right.
So on Colonel Fitz, like, is he a hero? Is he a villain? I think true to the nature of reality, the villain and hero archetypes are within each person, right? There are moments where you're one, moments where you're the other. And so to me, I thought it was very interesting, speaking of him, the scene where he's barging in on his son's bedroom, and he starts beating Ricky because he noticed that Ricky went into his office. And Ricky says that he showed his girlfriend his Nazi plate, and his dad, like, stops beating him for a minute, and he's like, wait, you have a girlfriend? So now he's somewhat, like, relenting against this brutality, because he's like, oh, thank God my son's not a gay guy. And he says, this is for your own good, boy. You have no respect for other people's things or for authority. You can't just go around doing whatever you feel like. You can't. There are rules in life. You need structure. You need discipline. And Ricky, of course, is, yes, sir, thank you for trying to teach me. Don't give up on me, Dad, And I thought that was interesting that this guy, this violent man, is the only representation of any sort of discipline in the whole movie. And so they're trying to paint discipline as, like, this fascist, evil thing, right? Because they're associating him with the Nazi plate. So, oh, this guy must just be a total fascist. And there's also a scene where Lester, he's being driven home by his wife, and he's bitching about his drama at the workday, and she's like, well, you still want to be employed, and he's like, well, don't you think it's weird, fascist, like it's fascist, like what his company's doing or whatever. And so these people are interpreting any sort of restraint or professionalism or a lack of self-indulgence as fascism, which I thought was an interesting juxtaposition, right? Because you have the Burnham home is very liberal, and it's falling into chaos, and then you have the Fitz home, which is so ordered, it's almost another level of chaos, right? It's like it's neither is ideal. If only those two families merged their worldviews and had a balance of the two, right? I think this is interesting because there's so much truth, yet so much hypocrisy in almost all the characters and all the things that they say in this film. But I do not think this is wrong. I think this is honest. This is the paradoxical nature of the human condition. Only discernment can bring people to a balanced perspective. A spiritually developed person knows how to control their cup, if you will, what fills it and what is poured out of it, and when and how much to let in or pour out, right? So all these people are sort of imbalanced one way or the other, which speaks to the American polarization, right? People are left or right, blue or red, liberal or conservative, fascist or anti-fascist. Like, there's no in between in anything.
I also want to point out, because you were saying earlier, you were talking about the fascism of what they're doing at Lester's workplace. So he claimed Lester was starting to suck at his job. I mean, the only thing we've ever seen of him working was being a catty homo and like, well, when does he come into the office? Because it seems like he's never there. And it's
does
and
he
then
even exist?
Does this guy even exist? Yeah. And his boss walks up and he's like, hey, faggot, come on, let's go talk. And oops, I shouldn't have said that. But hey, sodomite, hey, sodomite, let's go talk. Let's go talk at the office. You're on thin ice.
And then of course, Lester, rather than take responsibility,
Right.
or correct himself. He has to throw shade on the boss for buying a hooker
Mhm.
with the company card, and you know, so he's not taking self responsibility. He's putting he's calling out the log in an or what is the phrase? He's calling out the splinter in their eye, ignoring the log in his own eye, right?
Yeah.
So that's very interesting. And on Lester with his employment, you know, there's a scene on his work desk. We see a small sign on his cubicle wall that reads "Look closer." So of course I listened. I paused the screen and I tried to look at everything on his desk, and the only readable text in that scene besides the sign is a newspaper, and the headline reads "Advertising Age." And that was really interesting to me because this movie deals with this idea of advertisement a lot. So advertisement is a sales pitch. It's a presentation of a thing that promises to fill a need, solve a problem, or facilitate comfort and convenience. But if we look closer at things being advertised, we may discover they are not all they are promised to be. So think of how the mask of persona of manicured yards, of white picket fences, beautiful homes are an advertisement of a family. But oftentimes the hidden reality of the family in private, both as a family and as individuals, is not so pristine. And this is not bad. This is just reality. And Carolyn, you know, she's employing advertisement tactics in all she does. For example, her hair, the way she dresses, the way she behaves and acts. In her real estate business, she describes features of these homes as more whimsical and enticing than they actually are. And as she describes a backyard pool as a tropical lagoon, the potential buyers call the pool a concrete hole and mention all the bugs floating in it. We can't say Carolyn is simply delusional because she is just putting positive spin on reality, which is what advertisement is, right? It's a positive spin on a product or a reality. And so she sees the charm and the good in these things, even though they're imperfect. And she's trying to sell that perspective on these things to her buyers. But notice, though, how she doesn't employ this same treatment to her own husband. She's willing to look at the good and project a better image of a thing when she's selling a house, but she absolutely does not do that with her husband. So that's interesting as far as the marriage dynamics.
Damn.
Yeah.
Jason, don't you see part of that? Like, I think that's a really intriguing theme that you're looking at there. Don't you see part of that with the use of roses, especially with the Burnhams? Like, I don't think there's a scene in the movie where we don't see the red roses somewhere in their house. Like, that's advertising. Roses are so beautiful, and of course, at the end we're going to have Red be literally his blood. But I mean, yes. I think doorways. There's a lot of people standing in doorways in a movie and windows. Yes. It's all about the kind of that, again, the advertising, that appearance, what they look like, and how
boundaries and thresholds
for the world. Yeah. I think like all of that, like when you're looking cinematically, that is played out again and again throughout the movie, and I think brilliantly to that theme to show us, how much not only in her profession but in all of their lives, this is what's lived out.
Well, I have a lot. I have a lot to say, but I want Nick and Stag to jump in first because what I have to say next is probably going to be a little bit of a rant. Okay.
Okay, so let me ask you, right?
I can jump in.
Yeah, jump in, but I just want to ask Is what we talked about earlier, what I mentioned with the roses, is that going to interrupt what you're going to say?
No.
Okay.
No.
Okay. Static, go ahead.
Jason.
You go first.
I was just going to say that I disagree with the whole, well, not the whole thing, but what Josiah was just saying about the, how cinematic it was. I do think the cinematography was good and the score and soundtrack were good. But I think they kind of like they relied on the slow motion to make it seem like things were deeper than they actually are.
Yeah. No, I agree with that.
The plastic bag is like the perfect metaphor for the movie. Empty and moving in slow motion and making it seem like it's deeper than it actually is.
Yeah. Yeah.
And like what Jason, we've talked about it, your girlfriend called it trash, said it symbolizes trash.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
This
yeah,
movie,
yeah.
this movie is trash aimlessly floating wherever the wind
Yeah.
carries it.
Yeah.
Empty
Here,
bag.
I'll share it for the audience. Yeah, you guys, this was so funny. I was on a phone call with my girlfriend, and I'm telling her like, I go on this like 12-minute deep esoteric analysis of the bag, and then I'm like, "What do you think it means?" And she's like, "I think it's a piece of trash." And I was like, boom, mind blown. Like, yo, you're so right. My because look, sometimes I get carried away, you know, with the symbolism. Like my head goes so far up my own butt. I lost. I was like, you're right. It is. At the same time, it's all these things I'm saying. It's also just a piece of trash blowing in the wind.
Absolutely.
You know? Which
Just
is
like the
which
movie.
is so good. Yeah, you know, I'm glad you brought that up. That is so
Hot
true, man.
garbage.
I mean, and that's the thing, right? This is the nature of reality. It's a co-occurrence of multiple things, and our subjectivity isolates something, and then we fixate on that, right? But if we step back, we can understand there's more layers to the natures of all things than a lot of times we give ourselves credit for being able to perceive, you know, because we have our own values, we have our own likes and dislikes, and so, you know, you see something, it rubs you the wrong way, get it away from me, or you like something, I love this thing, and you start identifying with it. But at the end of the day, I mean, all things are just all things. Like, it's not, it's back to the Birdman thing. A thing is a thing, not what is said about said thing, right? And so we get so caught up in this hypnosis of putting everything into words and how it relates to ourselves that we lose track of all these things are here. They all exist. And there's beauty and ugliness in all of it, you know? So we shouldn't, you know, necessarily play games where it's like, oh no, this is good guy, that's bad guy.
No,
I'm on his
absolutely.
team. You know what I mean?
Yep.
And of course, there are times to do that, right? I mean, we were talking a little bit behind the scenes before the start about the ought and the is. You know, just because a thing is something doesn't mean we shouldn't ought aim for something better. So there are times when it is appropriate to exclude and include and discern and know when to draw something near and when to push something away, right? So I don't think I just think a lot of people are very caught up in the momentum. They're not doing any introspection in themselves, right? And I think that's what this film is kind of showing us, the consequences of not doing that, right?
Well, yeah. When you look at like Carolyn's reaction at the end, obviously at the end of the movie, you know, we knew at the beginning that Lester was killed, and so at the end we had this dilemma: who killed him? Obviously, well, if we take it at face value, it would be Fitz that killed him. But I mean, we have a reaction from Carolyn at the end that's pretty intense, in going in the closet and weeping with the clothes. What do you think that was all about? Anybody?
I stopped watching it halfway through, so I'm not sure.
Okay.
I think Carolyn and Lester both had the same experience where they let their desires overtake appreciating what they already had.
Yep.
And they were pursuing desires, they were pursuing temptation, succumbing to temptation, which dissolved their bond a little bit, and therefore now they're associating with sort of free radical connections outside their core bond, and which led them down paths where once they reached the apex of said path, when Lester finally has the girl in front of him and he's about to, as you said, boink the teen girl, he realizes last minute, I can't do this. And in fact, it's interesting because as much as you'd like to hate the guy, he takes on, he reverts to a fatherly role with her after that. He says,
He does.
we don't want to do this. You know, he actually talks to her like a father would his daughter. Like, yes, he was hypnotized. He succumbed to temptation, but at the last minute, all of a sudden reality snapped back into his brain and he realized, no. And he actually showed, some degree of virtue in that scene where he was like, no, we can't do this. And then, you know, he goes into the kitchen where he starts to the photographs of his wife and daughter are jumping back out at his attention for the first time in how long, and he realizes he's in tears almost, just like, wow, I almost threw away this beautiful life I've sacrificed so much for.
Beautiful.
And up until this point, I thought it was sort of, I'm losing myself in the pursuit of this material gain. But I think underneath that is, you're doing it for your wife and daughter. You're doing it for this family. And yes, things got messy. They got bad for a long while. But at that very end moment, I think he was having a moment of repentance, if you will, where he was feeling the reality of it. And this is to say, again, even though he had that change of heart last minute, it does not change the consequences already on their way. He already did these things. He already, everything's already been untangled. So there's no, once the vase is broken, you can't just hit reverse and put the vase back together, So even though he had that last minute sort of realization, he still had to face consequences that were put in motion by his behavior. And same with Carolyn. She was coming to the house with her own pistol to shoot her husband, as far as we're understanding as an audience. And she comes into the house and sees he's already been shot. Well, then she realizes, oh my gosh, and she couldn't believe it. And she immediately goes into despair and regret. And she collapses into the closet, hugging his jackets and clothing. And so I think I actually found it very interesting and profound that, this is showing sort of, it's almost a, what is it, like a warning or a cautionary tale. Don't succumb to temptation and sort of hypnosis, be mindful, appreciate the things you have, love the things you have, be responsible, etc. Right. So that's how I interpret that, Josiah.
I see something, Jason, in what you said, because I mean that scene with Angela when he became protective, to realize that, like, from a cinematic perspective at that point, there was no more red, that no more flowers, like everything that was associated with his desire for her and kind of the lust for her. After the moment that she had said she was a virgin and he's kind of slipped in that fatherly mode, there was no more red in that scene at all. Was there? I don't think there was. Was there?
So, there were flowers, and I think it's not even deep. I think the flowers represented just love, and I mean, right?
Oh, okay.
For Kevin Spacey, the love is out of the house. There's no love in this household anymore. His wife, Carolyn, is trying to keep love alive by growing it and bringing it into the house. And after that scene, you can see he's holding, it's actually in Static's looping video of Lester getting popped in the head as he deserves. Much does the director of this movie. There's the roses. Yeah. He realizes he's got love this entire time. Yeah, and the red of his blood. But he's realizes
the writer.
Oh, and the writer. Yeah. And the writer.
More so than the director.
And whoever was in charge of the musical score, too. I hated the music in this movie. I thought all of the original music that was wrote for it, like the iPhone ringtone that's shown at the beginning when he's narrating his life, or even like some of the his sick fantasies for Angela, like the music in that, it just didn't fit. But then the music that did fit was so damn cliche. I think the soundtrack for this movie sucked as well. Don't really like anything about this movie, really. Yeah. Sorry. I'm a real pessimist on this one. I'm sorry. This movie's hot trash, and I'm lowering it from 4 stars to 3.5. All right.
There you go.
Okay. Jason, I thought maybe you'd convince me. I thought maybe you'd convince me to raise it up from 4, but it's just steadily declining.
Well, let me try to raise this a little bit. Let's get into the roses. Carolyn's roses, the growing and pruning of roses. Roses are beautiful. They're associated with love and death, funerals and marriages. Roses are soft and fragrant on top, but underneath are covered in hard thorns. And this speaks again to sort of the surface advertisement level of reality and the undercurrents of people or things. There's definitely thorns underneath that soft, enticing surface. So they must be handled with care, or they will wilt and die or cut you. People must be careful when navigating their own undercurrents, the things occurring underneath the rosy surface. So I started to think about the concept of roses and how they blossom, how they bloom, how they develop. So how a thing reaches a critical moment in its development and it opens up, it unfolds, it expands its folded and hidden layers into the sunlight for all to see, and how this concept maps onto the characters in the film, especially Lester and Carolyn. They both feel held back in some way, and both decide to pursue their independent journeys of blossoming into what they view has been restricted in them. So from the outside, this process, they are experiencing what is typically labeled midlife crisis or a crisis of meaning. From a fuller view, this process is an example of alternating cycles of life that are necessary for the fullest development. In one scene, Carolyn is asked by one of the Jims how her flowers look so full and beautiful. And she says, eggshells and Miracle-Gro. And I thought that was very interesting because the members of the Burnham family, so if we're going to take Carolyn's her rose growing as sort of a metaphor for the nature of the household of the Burnham family, she says eggshells and Miracle-Gro, and all the members of the Burnham family are walking on eggshells around each other. There is no shortage of symbolic eggshells for Carolyn to feed her symbolic roses, right? And also on the Jims, just real quick side note, Jim and Jim, the gay couple, both are named Jim. So Jim loves Jim. He loves himself. They're both men. So a man loving a man, a man named Jim loving a man named Jim. This is self-love. This is selfish love. It's indulgence. This is what homosexuality represents, right? This concept of loving oneself is intricately explored in many ways throughout this entire film. The ultimate lesson, I think, is that selfish love leads to destruction. It's not generative. So only love with complementary opposites leads to creation. So back to the roses. When growing plants, it is common for growers to clip the fruiting buds of a plant at their initial growth, not to kill or harm the plant, but so the plant can grow that fruiting body again in a bigger, fuller way. In a way, the Burnhams' relationship has budded, but now it is being clipped by Carolyn and Lester so as to engender a fuller regrowth, ideally. However, we see that's not the case. The rose garden of the family, in fact, does die at the end. So I'm thinking in terms of their personal development as individuals and this idea of roses, how they develop, how you clip fruiting buds and then they grow back fuller and bigger. So you do an initial sacrifice of the quote unquote first fruits, and then from there you'll get an abundance. So because both ultimately come to realize when they finally have gone down their respective and independent journeys outside their marriage bond, they encounter worse realities and realize they were in a good place the whole time. They had just gotten so swept up in their careers, in their self-absorbed fantasies, that they were in a hypnosis of sorts, neglecting to appreciate the beauty and love they already had the whole time, which is, wow, that's how many of us can relate to that, So Lester and Carolyn, they grabbed their lives by the thorns and it cut everyone and killed the garden. So interestingly, the roses border the entire yard. So boundary threshold, right? So we have a thorned boundary disguised as something beautiful. This is like many things in life. Things we think we want or need, but end up regretting. Temptation, being lured in by the beauty, only to be cut by the thorn when you grab that thing you wanted. Temptation and its consequences. We temporarily get hypnotized and we put on our rose-colored glasses. Both Lester and Carolyn cross boundaries as their personal crises blossom. Both lured by the beauty of their secret desires and fantasies, and both wound up tangled in thorns.
Damn.
Yep.
Wow. I
Damn.
like that.
Yeah.
Goodness.
I give your deep dive 9 stars.
Yeah,
And
no,
I have
I'll tell
more.
you-
I have
I'll-
more,
I'll-
but
I'll tell
I want you guys to jump in, but I have more.
I'll tell you, Jason. So in that scene with her, then in the closet, and with that weeping that she does there, I mean, that's in keeping with somebody in repentance of knowing what those thorns have done. That's pretty amazing. That's a great insight you had.
I think
Thank you.
the scene in the closet is more, if I dare even say this movie had any deep symbology, the scene in the closet with her hugging Lester's clothes, I think it's more of it's just highlighting her appeal to materialism. She's a very materialistic person
Yeah.
throughout the movie, and her first response is to hide the gun, and her second response is hugging the clothes. That's my thought. I don't know.
Yo! I just had an insight, dude. That
I
is
think
so interesting. That is so interesting because she misses and loves and likes the idea of a husband in Lester.
Yes.
But she doesn't like Lester,
No.
There you go.
right? So
Yep.
she's clinging to the advertisement of a thing, not the actual thing.
Right.
She was coming home with a handgun to shoot him, but now that he's actually gone, her materialistic oriented mind is
Yep.
like, oh my gosh, I have no husband
Yeah.
anymore. What are people gonna think of me? Or
Yep.
like that's probably where her mind went, right?
Yep, makes sense. I
Probably.
love it.
Yeah. Because I mean, like you said,
Yeah, no,
the
that was
first
good.
thing was hiding the gun. First thing was hiding the gun.
Totally. 100%.
She was looking out for herself, and then the second, yeah, you already said it. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah.
Static. What do you think?
About the closet,
Yeah.
I didn't see the ending, but
I keep forgetting you didn't.
but yeah, I mean that
I'm sorry.
makes sense. I do like the that it was a materialist kind of thing. That makes a lot of sense.
Let's talk about the first half of the movie because I want to hear Static's thoughts on what he was able to stomach with this movie.
Static, what scene did you leave off on, buddy?
Oh geez, I don't even remember now. It was roughly halfway, I'd say, maybe a little before halfway. Yeah, I really hated the movie. I remembered it jogged my memory, and I remember him dying at the end. But I didn't remember the part where she goes into the closet.
Okay.
And I didn't remember the Marine neighbor trying to make a move on him either. So that's
Oh.
interesting.
Yeah, instead he sees his son doing what he thinks is performing fellation on
Yeah.
on Lester Burnham, beats up his son, and then goes to get a piece of action himself.
Right. Yeah.
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 One of the things that really bothered me about it was the use of stillness as a filmmaking tool. Because I think there's a lot of directors and cinematographers that use that technique very well, and I don't think that was the case in this movie.
Explain what you mean
I
by stillness.
Like long shots with not much going on.
Like lingering on a moment.
Right. Yeah.
Okay.
And slow motion, like the rose petals in slow motion in the bag.
Yeah.
One of the movies that I recommended is Stalker, and that director that director uses that technique properly, in my opinion, in a much better way, and there's a lot more depth behind it.
Okay. I think more than the stillness shots, I always appreciate like a very, very, very slow zoom more than the still shots.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think the slow-mo is very overused in a lot of movies. And yeah, the still shots, the boring still shots that are, you know what I mean? I think the purpose is to set a mood without saying anything or hearing anything. But
yeah, sometimes I think sometimes it's sort of used to almost seem kind of voyeuristic, like you're watching like you're actually watching a moment happen.
Right.
Yeah.
Interesting.
There's a way in which, for me, I disagree with that, because for me, like, if I have a scene where sometimes music really brings me into that scene, and I actually think that although I agree with you, Nick, that in some occasions, like the kind of chicka bow wow only orchestrated music that we had in the fantasies that Lester had about Angela were kind of annoying. I do believe that the music in the bag scene that was kind of repeated at several like moments in the film, also when Lester was dying, that was really beautiful music, and I think it did accomplish what it was setting out to do in terms of, at least within the framework of the movie, of the message it was trying to give. It wasn't until I played it last night that I was like, this is a really beautiful piece of work. And if it wasn't there, I don't know if that scene would have the same impact as it did with the music. The music really brought me into that scene more than if it hadn't been there. What about you, Jason?
Yeah, no, so I can see everyone's point on this. The way I think about sort of the stillness or the slow-mo, yes, it can be overdone or improperly implemented. However, I think, this was Sam Mendes' directorial debut. So I'm cutting the guy probably more slack than the rest of the guys on the panel here. But I think he was trying to show us, you have all these characters swept up in such momentum and chaos. And then he wants to sort of lock us in on a moment here or there to sort of juxtapose, to contrast, which, in that sense, I can see it as a valid technique. But I would agree. I would agree that those moments didn't necessarily need it. And I can absolutely empathize with how you see it as being sort of cliche or superficial implementation of that technique. So
nice. I just want to point out, I see this every week on the panel. Are We Not Men? He says, I've never seen this movie and I don't want to now. Well, if anybody wants to watch the movies that are featured, if anybody wants to watch the movies that are featured on our panel, anytime the wheel decides a movie for us, the great wheel, the wheel giveth and the wheel taketh, don't mess with the wheel. I upload those movies to our Telegram channel, which is only the movies. There's no commentary or anything. It's strictly just the uploads. You can watch it in the Telegram player. You can easily download it to any device, but the player actually works pretty good. If you have Telegram, it's t.me/Monday Night Movie Club. Check it out. Check it out. You could comment along, whether you love it, whether you hate it. Yeah, it's fun to be part of the discussion. All right.
I have another question, and I'm going to ask you, Nick, first, and then Static, and then I'll ask Jason.
Don't put me on the spot like that.
Oh no, I think you're going to have a good answer. So, why does Ricky film things rather than simply experience them? Like, does the camera connect him to life or distance him from it?
Reword that for me again.
Yeah. So when you think about Ricky filming things, I guess the question would be: does the camera connect him to life, or does it keep him distant from it?
I think it connects him. I think Ricky is smart for his age, which is like I think another '90s movie cliche that was brought about, the genius kid that's got it all figured out. Nobody has it figured out in their youth.
Right. Right.
Maybe 18, 18's an adult, but still, nobody has it figured out. But either way, he's a smart kid. He's got it figured out. He knows what he's doing in life, which is selling drugs and watching people through windows with a video camera.
And videotaping dead birds.
Dead birds, frozen women on the street, roadkill.
It's almost naked male neighbor. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I think it's him connecting with stuff. He's probably acoustic, to some degree. Maybe that was brought on by medication from going to a mental hospital. But yeah, I think it's more him connecting to rather than the inverse. What you said. What do y'all think?
Yeah, let's ask Static and then Jason, and then I have a strong opinion on this.
Okay.
I think doesn't he say that something about it like filming being beautiful?
Yes.
Did he say something? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I think he's kind of the only character that's really seeing things how they are.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess the camera is sort of like a metaphor for that.
Oh,
yeah, that's
good.
That's all.
Okay.
Yes, dude, that's good.
100%.
The camera is not a human, so there's no subjectivity in it. It's objective, and it's recording these things, and I think he is using the camera to connect, because for him, he comes from a very utilitarian, ordered upbringing in his household, and so he sees this as like, I can capture this, I can catalog this, I can categorize this, and I can re-experience it in my privacy, where I can go very deep on this, because if you see something once in real life, over time the memory will be subject to forces of nature of not remembering, or the subjectivity of ourselves sort of edits and changes our memories over time, right? Like if you've ever heard someone recall a story from their high school days or something, and every few years the story keeps changing a little bit, and that's because our subjective memory is it's subjective. It slowly veers more and more from the objective experience into a more condensed subjective experience. So I think him capturing something on film so he can catalog it in his collection and then recall it whenever he wants, and have the fullness of that thing as if it's new again every time. And I agree with Static. Ricky is really one of the only people who sees through the superficial level. He sees the thorns under the roses. So he's I think when he identifies something worthy of him filming, he wants to have access to that. And maybe this is his way of anchoring himself in this mindset, if you will.
Yeah, I mean, he's the only one, and you bringing up the camera, Static, is a perfect metaphor for that. The camera, it sees things that maybe we don't see, and the fact that in the back scene that scene started with him telling Jane, like, I want to share with you the most beautiful thing I've ever seen in my life, and then we see them in the darkness, but the only thing that's in light is the bag and the TV screen, and every time that they flash to him, it's almost like he's this disembodied head, and we're really aware of his eyes and the fact that he's all about seeing beyond like what the facade is. But what I found really interesting in that scene is that when we were seeing the bag, we had the bag theme song, but when we were focused on him telling Jane what it meant to him, and then looking at Jane, it was both of their theme music, until he got to the point and that bag just gets discarded. And then on Jane's face, you start hearing the bag theme again. And that's when she reaches out to him and holds his hand. And so I feel like in some ways, that's the moment that his connecting through his ability, through the camera and ability to see the world that way, he felt that other connection because the only physical connection he ever had before that was, his father beating on him and stuff like that. So I agree with you guys about him connecting to the world visually, but Jane definitely connects with him in a very powerful way when she reaches out for his hand, when she connects herself with the fact that, hey, I'm discarded, you see the beauty in me, and I get it, right? I mean, that's why that music played that way at that point, and that's the very moment that she held his hand. So I felt that was him getting a physical connection where he hadn't had one before.
Yeah.
Well,
That was me nerding out. Sorry about that.
that's all right.
Well, that's
You
all
kind of
right.
stink. You kind of smell like a
forgive you.
nerd.
I'm about to nerd out. So all right, you guys. I got a bunch more on roses,
Okay.
and I want to blow through. I don't know where we are time wise, but
We're good.
I want to blow through this,
Plenty of
and
time.
then we can move on to like the bag and other things. But so in the occult, colors have meanings. Red is a male force, active energy, physical body, blood, material, earth realm, surface level, or exoteric, meaning outward. So Carolyn is growing red roses, as would suit her character and energy. I found that very interesting. Why not white roses or something, right? And so the white represents the feminine force, passive energy, spiritual truth, purity, heavenly, divine realm, internal or esoteric aspects. So roses also have an interesting connection to secrecy. And you might be familiar with this with like mafia lore and stuff. Sending someone a rose when someone's dead or whacked for breaking the code of silence. So the occult connection to the Latin phrase sub rosa, which means under the rose, dating back to Cupid giving Harpocrates, the god of silence, a rose to keep the secrets of Venus. And of course, Venus, women are from Venus, men are from Mars. So hanging a rose from the ceiling became a symbol that all discussions held beneath the rose were occult or sworn to secrecy. In the Burnham's house, there is a vase of roses in all the rooms where the family is having their private discussions and arguments, etc. So this is the occult or
Interesting.
secret aspect of the family, and their public image is a stark contrast to their sub rosa life, if you will. So the family's private discussions and interactions are had in these spaces in proximity to the roses. Like all people, our internal home life is private, our external public life is not, and the two often contrast. And the family's communication has deteriorated as they all feel the distance between one another and each with themselves more and more. A once stable bond is fragmenting due to the constituent parts seeking bonds with free radicals. So there's a little bit of a chemical analogy there. So I want to get into how the roses, and so you guys can see on the screen right now, see Angela in the bed of roses. Notice her bodily position, and then notice the cross, the Rosicrucian cross adorned with roses.
Mhm.
So it made me think of Rosicrucianism, and of course I have a few Rosicrucian books from like 1940s. So I was looking through there, and this is what I learned from that. The ancient mystical order of the Rosy Cross uses a red rose adorning a gold cross as their symbol. Branch off groups of the order use a white cross adorned by a garland of 7 red roses, which is the one depicted there, at the center of a 5-pointed star. The rose and cross represent the union of the spiritual and material, of incarnation and spiritual awakening, spiritual development. The word rose is past tense for rise or risen. The Rosicrucian views the rose and cross as analogous to Christ on the cross and the spiritual development one can attain by following the Christian teaching. So the rose, unfolding human soul, spiritual awakening, divine light. The cross is the material world, the physical body, earthly suffering and sacrifice. I found it very interesting that the poster image or the cover image there with Angela maps onto this concept. And I also found it very interesting that Carolyn is growing roses and Lester is fantasizing about Angela in bed of rose petals. So he's, what Nick said earlier, the love has left the home. Now Lester is sort of, in his mind, his love symbolized by the rose is now
Yeah.
associated with Angela and not his wife.
And the roses
So-
he's seeing, they're all fantasy. Even though the roses have been there the whole time. The roses have been there the
Yes.
whole time throughout the house, but he is so fixated on the illusion of roses.
Yes.
Yeah. Yes.
Yes. So here's a quote from my Rosicrucian book that goes deeper into the rose and the cross. And I think there's interesting things said in this that tie into the movie. And I'm curious what you guys connect with. So when viewed in its fullness, this symbol, the rose and the cross, contains the key to man's past evolution, his present constitution, and future development, together with the method of attainment in the form where it is represented with a single rose in the center. It symbolizes the spirit radiating from itself, the four vehicles, the dense, vital, and desire bodies plus the mind. Those are the four vehicles that the spirit inhabits. Okay, so the dense, the vital, and desire bodies. So where the spirit has drawn into its instruments and become the indwelling human spirit, there was a time when that condition did not obtain, a time when the threefold spirit hovered above its vehicles and was unable to enter. Then the cross stood alone without the rose, symbolizing the condition which prevailed in the early third of Atlantis. There was even a time when the upper limb of the cross was lacking, and man's constitution was represented by the Tau, or the capital T. That was in the Lumerian epoch, when we had only the dense, vital, and desire body, but lacked the mind. Man followed desire without reserve. At a still earlier time, in the Hyperborean epoch, he was also minus the desire body and possessed only the dense and vital body. Then man in the making was like the plants, chaste and devoid of desire. At that time, his constitution could not have been represented by a cross. It was symbolized by a straight shaft, a pillar. This symbol has been considered phallic, an emblem showing the licentiousness of the people who worshipped it. Truly, it is a symbol of generation, but generation is by no means synonymous with degradation. Far from it. The pillar is the lower limb of the cross, symbolical of man in the making when he was plant-like. The plant is unconscious of passion, desire, innocent of evil. It generates and perpetuates its species in a manner so pure, so chaste, that properly understood, it is a model for fallen and passionate humanity to worship as an ideal, and it was given to earlier races with that intent. The phallus and Iona used in Greek mystery temples were given by the Hierophants in that spirit, and over the temple was placed in enigmatic words, "Man, know thyself," which motto, properly understood, is similar to that of the Rose Cross, for it shows the reason for man's fall into desire, passion, and sin, and gives the key to his liberation in the same way the roses upon the cross indicate the path of liberation. The plant is innocent, but not virtuous. It has neither desire nor choice. Man has both. He may follow desire or not as he wishes, that he may learn to master himself. While he was plant-like, a hermaphrodite, he could generate from himself without the help of another. But though he was chaste and as innocent as the plants, he was also as unconscious and inert. In order to advance, he must have desire to spur him on, and a mind to guide him. The same force which builds another body when it is sent outwards, builds the brain when retained equally clear when we consider that sex mania leads to insanity, while the profound thinker will feel little inclination for amorous practices. He uses all of his creative force to generate thought instead of wasting it in sense gratification. He will learn how to master himself and cease to try to master others, except it be done temporarily for their good, but never for selfish ends. Only one who has mastered himself is qualified to rule others and competent to judge when that should be done and what is best for them. The rose, like any flower, is the generative organ of the plant. Its green stem carries the passionless plant blood. The blood red rose shows the passion filled blood of the human race. But in the rose, the vital fluid is not sensuous, it is chaste and pure. Thus, it is an excellent symbol of the generative organ in the pure and holy state to which man will attain when he has cleansed and purified his blood from desire, when he becomes chaste, pure, and Christ-like.
Damn.
All right. So that was a long.
Why does it always come down to peens with the esoteric people?
Right.
Always about dicks. Every single time it's about dicks.
Well, we live in a sexed creation of receptacles and active forces. I think that's why. But that is true. Static. They do often boil things down to that. Which, look, I don't blame people for misinterpreting. But so you guys, they're talking about plants, and they're using this as a metaphor for spiritual development. And they're talking about how plants reproduce and how humans reproduce, and how plants are innocent but they have no virtue, and how men, we have choices and we can take actions. So therefore, virtue is now an option. We can go against our inclinations, our fallen passions, and they mention how, because of man's fall, our passion and our desires are leading to sexual mania, because our procreative path, requiring two opposing opposites to align to create a male and a woman to complement and create. With plants, they're hermaphroditic, so they don't need, a rose doesn't need another rose to reproduce. This is just, I thought it was very interesting because I think it speaks to Carolyn and Lester. Carolyn, she's growing roses. She's snipping them, and she's talking to the gay neighbor about what she uses to grow them. And Lester, he's peeking out the window like a goon, and he's talking about how much he hates his wife. And Lester is now under the control of his desire and passion. And so, and they're no longer having sex in their marriage. Lester's jerking it in the shower, and Carolyn is pursuing the real estate magnate, the local real estate king or whatever. And so these people, you know, they've become polarized. You know, these two magnets once met and became one, but now those magnets, something's inverted, and now they're polarizing and they're separating, which is fragmentation, divorce, etc. Right? I just thought that was very interesting, that this movie seems to be centered around this rose concept. And I wouldn't be surprised if Sam Mendes was privy to these Rosicrucian esoteric teachings about man as a spiritual developing animal or creature, and using these analogies of roses and plants to sort of capture these ideas. I mean, what do you guys think of that?
I took some notes while you were talking, real quick. So I just want to make sure I have it right. Like the cross basically represents the body or the world, and the rose is the spirit emerging from it.
Yes.
Okay. So I think that it's kind of the meaning is kind of inverted in the film.
Exactly. Yes.
Carolyn's roses are like performative and like obsessed with control. She's obsessed with controlling them and matching the furniture and all that stuff.
Yes.
And the real symbolism happens through Lester of interior awakening.
Yes.
and
Exactly, bro.
he doesn't actually have anything to do with her garden at all.
Absolutely.
Damn.
Yes, dude. Very good. Yes.
Damn.
Anybody else?
Fantastic.
Nope. I think you I think you both hit the nail on the head with that one.
I
Josiah?
also think there's sort of like
I was on mute. Oh my gosh. Okay, so I took some notes while you were talking. Nick, do you have anything to say, buddy?
Nope.
Okay, so I think that when I look at this scene, like I was intrigued by what you said about the Rosicrucian angle on it. But I mean, we were looking at it, and like Angela's her arms were extended, the bed of roses, and it's kind of cruciform and devotional image. I mean, it's definitely. If you looked at it in another way, it could be. I think the Catholics have that cross with the Sacred Heart on it, and so psychologically, it makes Lester has made Angela his savior, and so he believes essentially, like in my opinion, seeing this like if I become young enough, attractive enough, like maybe free enough, I ultimately possess what Angela represents, and I will come back to life. And so I believe like he looks at this as like, I think she's cruciform because he sees her as his salvation narrative, and he's confused desire with transcendence. The other note I took is that Angela isn't going to save him. She's an ordinary, insecure young woman whom Lester has projected a normal spiritual meaning. And I would say when he imagines her amid the roses and the sacred composition, we're not necessarily learning anything about Angela. We're learning what Lester has turned into and what he is seeking. And he's looking at her as the icon for basically his deliverance.
Oh my gosh, dude. Yeah. And when he pictures Angela with the roses, it's just the petals. There's no thorns or stems. So it's not grounded in reality. And it's also, there's no darkness because he's seeing this thing from the outside subjectively. So he's only seeing the good. But at the end, when he has the opportunity to go under the rose of Angela, quote unquote, he realizes this is going to be such a devastating thorn entanglement. I can't do it. And so that's what's so interesting. But Static, go ahead. I'm sorry I cut you off.
Oh, you didn't cut me off. I do have something to add, though. I think another sort of esoteric, like alchemical kind of thing is they often have red and white together.
Yes.
And you could look at like the roses and the white interior of like a suburban house as sort of representing that.
Dude, that's perfect.
And
because...
Lester, oh, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, no. You can finish.
Lester sort of goes through like a alchemical death and rebirth in a way. And I might be wrong, but I think Rosicrucianism is they sort of have similar beliefs to that whole alchemy thing,
yes.
So.
Yeah. It's almost universal in all the mystery schools and occults. If anyone has read any variety of these things, it's all the same. They're just choosing to fixate on different analogies. The Rosicrucians use the Rosencross. These other people, they use something else. You know, it's all talking about the same stuff, and it's all rooted in alchemy and Hermeticism. And basically, it's just being recycled and put into forms that cultures can identify with, because this is an invasive tradition where they have a secret tradition, and in order for it to take root in a new culture, they have to use that culture's symbolic motifs to attach to those same teachings, right? It's a universal teaching, but it's just going under different emblems, essentially. But when you said red and white, that's interesting that you drew that connection, because the bag is white and the roses are red, and they both speak to sort of the same themes, in my opinion, about vessels being inhabited by forces like consciousness or wind or weather or whatever. So I actually have to use the bathroom, guys. But if you guys want to move into the bag stuff, I don't know, Josiah, do you have anything on the bag that you could talk about while I use the restroom?
I do. I'm more on this as well, but I mean, I want to hear what Nick has to say about this.
The bag?
No, about what anything.
No, I don't
About
follow
the
the Rosicrucian stuff. Rosicrucian.
I don't either, but yeah, I had a different take on it.
Yeah,
but,
this is I've had no comment over anything said in the last 15 minutes because I'm just like, whoa.
You're like, boom, I'm done.
Yeah, and it's not anything about the movie. It's just about Jason's ability to deep dive and spew all this knowledge on stuff like this, and to be able to his ability to just dive as schizoid and deep as he does, especially with such a shallow movie that he suggested. But because I don't think any of the symbolism in this movie is that deep.
No.
I honestly believe, and I'm not going to be convinced otherwise.
They want you to think that it is, but it's not.
Yeah, no. I mean, Nick, I'm with you 100%. I'm talking from like the point of view of Hollywood and what they're trying to present to the world. This is what they're trying to do. But yeah, I mean, I already said what I thought earlier about it.
Right.
It's how shallow it is. Yeah.
I think the movie is very cliche. It's very shallow. It's very pseudo artistic. And I think
boring. It was boring.
I was bored to tears.
Boring.
And I think the reason it got such critical acclaim from Hollywood was because they're a bunch of satanic pedophiles, and they fantasized what Lester did with a minor.
They work with the CIA to condition us. That's what happens, So there you go.
Yeah.
Right.
And then
it's perfectly normal to lust after high school girls.
Yeah, the 90s was pinnacle about this.
And be gay.
The fact that this movie was actually promoted by NAMBLA, it should tell you everything.
What?
You guys remember in that same time? Remember we kept getting, and it would come from like random places too. This idea that men think about sex every 6 seconds. And I remember thinking to myself, I'm a man. I don't think about sex virtually ever.
Yeah. Ain't that funny?
Ever.
You hear facts like that, and it's like, well, what? Am I not a normal man? Am I not a normal man for not thinking?
Right.
Yeah.
It's like, where are you getting this data? You're like, who
Yeah.
Like,
I mean, you do if you're watching degenerate stuff on TV and YouTube and
you do if you're a Redditor.
YouTube. Yeah, but I mean, even if just browsing YouTube, they're scantily clad women, and
Oh, my YouTube feed. Anything I see on YouTube is video game reviews and Abolitionist Rising, just banning abortion. So props to the algorithm for not filling me with degenerate videos. Also what I've been seeing too is really shitty arrest videos, but they never actually show the aftermath of the arrest. It's just like right when the cop shows up. I don't see the degen stuff.
The law enforcement body cam stuff is so addicting, bro. Like,
I think the people that pushed the whole men think about sex every 6 seconds were the same people who later pushed that masturbation is just such a normal and healthy thing. It prevents testicular cancer and all this other crap. Yeah.
But even if you're watching, like, I don't watch it myself, but even if you're watching stuff that's like anti-degeneracy on YouTube, their thumbnails are still women in bikinis, like, women, like whatever podcast.
Whatever's guilty of that for sure. Yeah. And you know what? It's funny. Instagram's pretty guilty of that too. Like a big trend in the last year has been men re-embracing traditionalism and whatnot. And then shortly after that was women with big doinkin' donkers and low cut tops, also preaching traditionalism too. And wait a minute, hold on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Golly Jewelers.
Well, that ties into the advertisement thing, sex sells, right?
Yeah.
Which that's another thing that was just sort of said out loud, and everyone was like, "Yeah, I guess you're right."
Sex and fear of death.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah. We live in Freud's culture. But I want to get into the bag. You guys want to talk about the bag?
Of course.
Yeah. All right. So all right. So I'll give my takes, and then I'll let Static and Nick rip it to shreds. All right. The bag is so of course it's a vessel, just like a person, an object that carries things, made to be filled. When a bag is filled, it's weighed down, it's grounded. So when a person is filled, they have responsibilities, they have burdens, right? So carried bags they have purpose, as humans do. A human and a bag both associate with carrying things. So a bag is carried only by a person with a purpose in carrying the things contained in the bag. When the bag is empty, it's swept about by the wind, which is weather, which is natural forces of nature, which is also a sort of symbol or metaphor for psychological forces like desires and emotions. So an empty bag has no purpose. An empty person has no purpose. It is discarded and left to the forces of nature, of breakdown. So themes of fulfillment and unfulfillment. We see in this movie how these people, their bags are very full, but they choose to drop the full bag and sort of pursue a new empty bag that they can fill with new things, right? And none of this is fulfilling them. They just need more. They need more. So this idea of a weighted bag being grounded with a purpose and responsibility versus sort of airborne and directionless bags. And again, bags represent people, all right? So I'm using sort of dual language here. So I see the bag as a metaphor for what's happening to both Lester and Carolyn. And honestly, for all the characters in their own ways to differing degrees in this movie, the midlife crises of the parents, the adolescent crises of the kids, all being carried away by the wind in their sail. However, the bag could also be seen as freedom, as weightlessness, of not carrying anything, of being unburdened, surrender to a greater force or current. The bag is also, at its literal level, trash. It's litter. The bag is hollow, like secular materialism, empty, thin, a use once and discard item. Consumerism. It's a reminder that something once had a purpose and was fulfilled can be empty again and thus no longer needed and discarded. Lester and Carolyn will, they view each other as empty and discard one another. Same with both of them toward their daughter. Same with Ricky's father and mother, etc. And lastly, we carry things we care about. The discarded empty bag is a symbol of carelessness, of not having anything to care about anymore. Why carry anything? I have nothing to care about. Let it go, throw it away, let the wind take it away. So the bag is white, and it is rising in the air, dancing in the wind. If we examine this aspect accordingly, the bag is like a spirit freed from bondage or freed from a body. The very Gnostic idea here, no longer being held by any person or weighed down by anything inside of it. It is the ascension after death. All of this, I believe, is why Ricky says the bag in the wind is the most beautiful thing he's ever seen. And at the end of the film, Lester snapped out of his sexual fantasy, taking on a fatherly role with Angelica, whose name is also very interesting. Angela Hayes. She's like this angelic haze to Lester. a hallucination of angelic sort of floating beauty and desire. So he gets fatherly with Angelica and remembering his beautiful daughter, wife, and joys of his life, only to immediately be shot. Then the camera cuts to the bag floating in the wind again. So as soon as he's shot, the camera pans to the blood splatter, and then it cuts to the bag in the wind again. So it's almost like his spirit being freed from the bodily matters of his life in a way. But what do you guys think? What are your all's take on that?
Okay.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Nick.
You sure?
Oh, you want me to go? I'll be real quick if you want. Because I mentioned it in my opening statement. I think the bag perfectly represents the movie. Empty, mindlessly blowing in the wind, and a piece of trash.
I'm going to go a little deeper. I'm going to say that Ricky and Jane are both, and Angela too, are living very privileged lives. Very privileged. Sure, their parents are distracted by how great and how privileged they are as well, with having great sources of income and living in a very, very white, it's a suburban neighborhood, but all the houses are very large. They're very nice. They all have a little bit of land to them. These kids are making themselves victims of being in such a good upbringing. So to see a piece of garbage, it's not actually beauty to them. They're finding beauty in rebellion. They're finding beauty in a wrench being thrown in the plans of order. And the bag is chaos. It's litter. It's fucking garbage. But it stands out in such a nice, privileged area full of white picket fences with roses growing on them, nice vehicles without damage on them, large, beautiful white houses, lawns that are kept up, but this bag that just goes against the grain because it's litter. They find the beauty in that because they are rebellious teens and they don't know better.
That was excellent, Nick. That was very good.
Thank you. That's my best attempt at a deep dive. All right, you don't like it, get out of here.
Hey, Nicky hides his power level. Nicky be hiding his power level, y'all.
He is. He's great.
I'd rather just be crass and shit on the movie. Josiah, go ahead.
All right. Well, mine's not going to really be impactful. I look at this as like, okay, there's the movie version of what's happening in my version. Like when I look at the bag, I don't see the bag as something good. I look at the bag as like, this is the crap in my life that I continually look at and I make excuses. Hey, I'm dancing with this bag and I'm dancing with it. But it's stuff came from God, and I glorify it. In the movie version, it's like, this is what makes us realize, the truth of the world and all that. So for me, although I think that's a pivotal scene in the movie, and I can look at it and then on an aesthetic basis and say, I think it defines the whole movie, and I love the music on that. For me, what does the bag symbolize for me personally? It symbolizes what Josiah looks in life and says, I'm going to dance with sin right there, and I'm going to justify it and say it's beautiful and holy, but it's really taking me to a place that is one excuse after another. And I don't know why I brought that up, guys. It was so depressing, but that's what depressed said to me. But no, from the point of view of the movie, it's like the bag is like the discarded and that part of ourselves that, the other part of ourselves as Christians, we know that we could never get to the dance on our own. We have to go through our Lord, and we do that through true repentance and going to liturgy and all that. So it can be both things, but that was not what was intended by the movie. They wanted to take the inversion of what we believe as Christians and have the humanistic way to kind of encounter that. And that was the depressing take for the night. But
oh man, no, that was
pretty
great
good.
You guys, I think we all had really good takes on that. That was good.
To support the my bag thing, right?
Even
my take on the bag, I would.
Yeah.
even Static's take on the bag.
Hey, this is a democracy, man. All points are valid, right?
The bag is once something. It was once something, that followed in with the structure of their
Yep.
near perfect
Yep.
privileged upbringing.
Yep.
You know,
Yep.
and now it's discarded. It's not being used for its purpose. It's freely dancing around this element of it once had a purpose and it's doing its own thing now. But again, I'm not one for the
Yeah.
deep dives. This movie is
Nick-
trash, and they idolized a piece of trash blowing in the wind.
Nick, go ahead and look at what M. Philtrip said in chat.
Let's see. Growing up in a spiritually bankrupt society and dysfunctional families with no real guidance or truth anywhere.
Wow.
That's pretty good.
Yeah.
I like
yeah.
Film Trip. Film Trip, I haven't seen you in here before, but welcome to the channel. Hope you're enjoying
Good
it.
You nailed it,
man.
Film Trip.
He's had some interesting takes on stuff.
He has.
I love it.
He has. This man is all
Welcome.
about film tripping, and maybe he wants to be on the panel one day. I don't know.
Let's go, man. Let's
Yeah.
go.
You got it. You got it.
He's one who likes this movie, but he seems to be on the same page as us with rejecting degeneracy and
Yeah.
hating Kevin Spacey. But and also hopefully what's this director's name? Sam Mendes,
care.
and also Alan Ball. Oh, I care because I want to go after them and kill them later. And Alan Ball, you're next. That's the writer.
Hey, can I bring up another scene real quick about Lester and Carolyn?
No. Anyways,
I don't know where we are for time. I don't know.
we're
Got
good.
about
Go
15
ahead.
minutes.
Okay. All right. So you guys remember when Lester he had his dramatic day at work, and his wife is driving him home, and which is so perfect that his wife is the one driving him in her vehicle. He doesn't even have one at this point. Lester says, "Don't you think it's kind of weird and fascist?" And when he says the word fascist, we see the camera panning on them arriving to their driveway, but it passes the Fitz household moving in with the moving truck and all the boxes. And of course, Colonel Fitz, he's associated with fascism because he owns a Nazi plate, right? And which is like some foreshadowing in the movie. But as they pull up their driveway, we see the Fitz moving in. And then Carolyn responds, "Possibly, but you don't want to be unemployed." And then Lester says, "Oh, well, all right. Let's just all sell our souls and work for Satan because it's more convenient that way." And Carolyn says, "Oh, Lester, quit being so dramatic all the time." And so it's funny, right? Because typically, if their archetypes weren't inverted, it would be the husband driving the wife, and the wife would be complaining and being dramatic, and the
Yes.
husband would be trying to ground his wife. But it's the exact opposite in that scene. And I think
Right.
that's hilarious. Like everything about it, the dialogue, everything about it. And
Yes.
so,
Yeah,
also,
this is.
Go No, go ahead.
No, I was just saying that this whole movie, the roles are reversed, and they're except Lester isn't trying to be the man of the family. Lester's just being a selfish, same-sex marriage type.
Little bitch.
Carolyn, yeah, he's being a little punk ass bitch. There's no masculinity in this man whatsoever. But Carolyn, on the other hand, is actually trying to be the breadwinner. She's trying to show culture and stuff to the kids. She's trying to feed everyone appropriately. She's trying to be both roles, really, and
Yes.
she's failing at it, and she's collapsing from it. I mean, look at her trying to sell the house. And because she's putting on this facade, being fake and trying to be both roles, she's slamming her head against the sliding glass sliding glass back door for not being able to sell this house and be successful at this. Meanwhile, she actually is being a fairly good mom in certain aspects, but also trying to be the dad is what's really ruining her as a mom as well.
Yes.
And trying to step
I
up
think
on Lester's behalf because he's a pathetic piece of shit.
Yes. He is. He is. But this is where we can't put it all on Lester, because she should be trying to instill in her husband a realignment of his masculinity rather than taking on the role herself. You know what I mean? And I think he resents her for that. Like, you know, you want to do my role and yours? Well, have fun, see how that works. You know, like and yes, that is a bitch perspective on his part. I agree. But I think there is culpability across the board for these people. I don't think it's purely one-sided. Of course, we have to lay more responsibility at the foot of the man than the woman. That's just the nature of the world. Of course, I agree. Right. But I don't think she's innocent necessarily. But I think in the dialogue and in the interactions, I think like I mentioned earlier, there's so much truth and hypocrisy in almost everything everyone's doing. Lester and Carolyn both have legitimate point in their perspectives. And in a proper marriage, this is how people would keep one another balanced. But in the context of Lester and Carolyn's relationship, how it's sort of degraded, Carolyn is annoyed in her weak husband, and Lester is annoyed by his unsympathetic, unsupportive wife. She's sort of like, oh, you want to be a loser piece of shit? Well, fine, see ya. You know, you may as well. She's not doing anything self-sacrificially to encourage and help him, irregardless of his condition, right? So that's why I think it's not just like a one-sided failure. I think both of these people are failing. And also at dinner, well, go ahead.
I just want to say, I got to disagree. I think the only reason Carolyn is failing as a wife is because she's had to step up, is because it probably all started with her getting her realtor's license. That's probably where this all started, was her getting the realtor license and him supporting her and being a weak man and seeing this as like, well, she's going to be the main breadwinner with this realtor thing. And it was probably all downhill from there. And I'm sorry, I got to disagree. It's Lester's fault. Lester, you're a piece of shit. Fuck you, Kevin Spacey.
No, yeah, I
hate you.
Agree. I do agree. I just see that there's secondary. He is primarily responsible.
Look, she's shocked. She's shocked whenever she hears these comments about her being a bad mom, right? Her first initial reaction when Lester, being the punk ass that he is, goes, like, your mom of the year. And she goes, what?
Yeah. Yes.
And then when she goes and talks to Jane up in her room, and she says, no, you're both crazy. And she's like, what? And she's really been doing her best. I think she has. And, it sucks. Right. It's terrible. It's despicable that she cheated on Lester and everything, instead of remaining faithful. But, man, Lester's a real slimy piece of shit.
Well, this is the thing. All these characters, they possess qualities, but they're missing the mark with how they implement their qualities. Like Lester, rather than focusing his masculine traits on fixing certain things, he directs that energy at pursuit of other things. And same with Carolyn. They all have the virtuous qualities, but they're not. They're all missing marks on things, right? Like they're sacrificing in the wrong direction. They're pursuing in the wrong direction. They have all the things that they would need, but they're discombobulated. So like all the energy is flowing in the wrong targets,
For sure.
And so, and I thought it was interesting how at the first dinner scene, Lester complains further about his work situation, and he says, of course, they can't just fire someone. That would just be too honest. And his frustration isn't necessarily over someone's going to lose their job at work, because he assumes it's probably him that's going to lose his job. He's frustrated that people have to play these games and lie to avoid just direct, difficult truth. And so that's one of the things I do like about Lester. He's sort of seeing how people play these games rather than just be direct and blunt. And it speaks to this idea, okay, you're advertising something, but you're not giving me the product what it really is, So he sees through this like charade that everyone's playing, and it's kind of driving him to be like, you know what, I don't want to participate in this anymore. Hence why he has fallen into this irresponsible, childish, immature mindset, because he's sort of that's his rebellion. That's the only way he knows how to rebel. And so we can all agree we don't want ads. We are sick of ads. We hate ads. We want what's real and what works, and we don't need ads for that. And Lester complains all of this to his wife and Jane. And Jane reveals how she feels toward her father, saying, you can't expect me to all of a sudden be your best friend just because you had a bad day. You've barely spoken to me in months. And so we get a little insight into, you know, he's been neglecting his fatherly duties, and now he's surprised that his daughter is distancing. And same with Carolyn in a way, right? She's also surprised her daughter's alienated and distancing, because they've both sort of been swept up in this like midlife crisis, fantasy, disconnection, marriage thing. And Lester and Carolyn have both become so self-involved, they've been failing to give their attention to their child, the very thing that solidifies their marital bond in their family. And so they showed up for her dance routine at school, but I think it was probably on the weekend to support Jane, but more strongly to uphold the public image that we're a family and whatever. And what do you guys think of that?
Okay, I want to back up. I had something to say with you mentioning Lester and the whole work thing. Jason, you haven't worked very many normal jobs, right? But
Right.
that's not a judgment, but I'm asking because like Static and Josiah,
that is fact.
Have you ever been given or been tasked with a self-evaluation at work? Yeah. No? Okay. A self-evaluation. So a little insight into me. I'm in management at a place, right? I've been a manager at a lot of places. A self-evaluation is a good way to determine who's worth keeping and who's not. And the reason is you're going to have three types of people, right? You're going to have the person who thinks they're hot shit and there's nothing they could fix about themselves. You're going to have the person that thinks they're terrible, they're a sack of shit, they fail at everything. And then you're going to have the really good employee that's like, well, I'm good at this, I could use some growth in that. Kevin Spacey took so much offense to the self-evaluation that they were asking him to provide because he had no confidence and he sucks and he knew he sucked. That's what it was.
Yeah. That's a great point, Nick. I actually wrote down a note on this. So
I'm about to give self-evaluations to the managers that are underneath me where I work, and I'm interested to see. But I'm actually hedging bets with my boss on who's gonna say what, because I think I already know what they're all gonna say, but it's sort of in writing of if they're worth keeping or not. But go ahead, Jason.
So. Yes, that was that. So in one of my notes, I wrote, the way people typically operate in society, we're all sort of out here wearing our mask, presenting ourselves as who we are, whatever. But as soon as someone sort of pulls your mask off and reveals, hey, bud, you're kind of sucking at the job here and we might fire you. Well, he's, rather than humble himself and be like, you know what, you're right, I'm going to do better. He has to throw mud. He has to rip the mask off the boss. He has to say, well, he's sleeping with hookers and using company credit card, right? And so people who can't, people who are unable to be humbled and repent, they go to war.
Yes.
Right? When they reach those moments, they go to war. And then everyone's masks are off and it gets messy very fast and everyone's at war. And so we all know we all have rugs with filth under the rugs, but as soon as you lift my rug and start pointing out the filth under my rug, well, now I have to lift up your rug and point out the filth under you, and then it just spirals, right?
Yes.
And so that's exactly what happened with Lester.
Not to mention, he's not pointing out the corruption in the company to be a force of good. No, he's being a slimy viper and using it as blackmail to get a year's pay and benefits while not working. Because he sucks as an employee and he knew he was going to lose his job.
And this is the reality too. Like, it's if the boss did that, it's his company. You're still an employee. You don't he can burn his business to the ground if he wants, like so
Yeah. This has been great.
But there's one last quote too that I think speaks to this. So the first time we see Jane in the film, other than the very beginning when she's talking about, I wish someone would put my dad out of her misery. We have Lester's narrative, and it shows Jane. He's like, Jane, a typical teenager, angry, confused, and insecure. I'd like to tell her these things will change, but I don't want to lie to her. And so Lester, as a father, would rather be silent and alienating than tell his daughter a noble lie, right? And this is why he hates advertising. He hates what he does for a living. He hates the fake, superficial shell of a thing.
Damn.
So I thought that was just an interesting moment in the film that speaks to sort of the theme being explored in the entire film.
And it's also really telling, too, that he says, I'd like to tell her these things will change, but I don't want to lie to her. What the fuck? How immature are you? How immature are you that you have not grown as a man, right? You have not grown as an adult and as a man, right? To tell your daughter that she won't feel so angsty and so self-conscious when she gets older, because he's self-conscious and he's a weak little bitch.
He's projecting. Yes, absolutely. Man. Yep.
He's the teenage girl.
Yes, he is the teenage girl. He is the teenage girl. Nailed it. I wonder if this button works. Oh, it doesn't work on these scenes.
That's why he's
you are what you are a predator of. You are what you try to force yourself on. Oh, jeez.
Oh, man.
Well, it's about that time, guys. Anybody got any last words to say before we give this to the wheel?
Yeah, man. I'm good, dude. I mean, we covered it.
Excellent. Everybody, it's wheel time. The great wheel is about to decide. Oops, hold on. There we go. Oh, great wheel. Great wheel, you giveth as much as you can taketh, and I'd like to apologize to the wheel.
Be a good movie this time.
Well, speaking of that, I'd like to apologize to the wheel. Last show, we did an edit to the wheel, and we wound up with this piece of shit that Jason suggested. I'm just kidding. Jason, love you, brother. Before we ask the wheel, let me do that. I'm sorry. I'm jumping the gun. 2 questions for each of you, and real quick answers. Was this a great movie? Josiah. Are you muted?
He said
I can't
no.
hear him. Oh, he said no? Why can't I hear him? All right. Sorry, Josiah. They can hear you. It's the thing. You disconnected earlier. But as long as they can hear you. Excellent. Translate for Josiah. He said no. Jason?
He said...
Jason,
Jason,
great movie?
Yes, man. I have to consider this a good movie, a great movie. I like it. Hence why I recommended it for the list. I think it's discussion worthy. I love it or hate it. It's gonna make you feel something. And
well,
so
hold
that,
on.
To me,
I'll get to discussion worthy later. I just want to know, is it a great movie?
Yes, I do believe it's a great movie.
Okay. Static?
Yeah, I thought it was a masterpiece. I think it should have won more Oscars. 60 awards is clearly.
I get it, guys. I get it. Okay.
The highest rated movie we've watched so far. Well deserved. It probably should have been a 10, but 8.3 is good. No, I hated it. It's horrible.
Look, I'd give this movie a 7. Okay. I'd give it a 7.
I think Nick's 4 was too generous.
Oh, I'm at 3.2 now. I've been lowering
That's
it gradually.
Still too generous.
My take, Sam Mendes, Alan Ball, Kevin Spacey, I'm coming. I'm coming. Just know that. Just know that. Now, the other question, and I'll start with Josiah. A movie worth talking about. What do you say,
said,
Stan?
I don't know. Spin the wheel.
We're getting to the wheel. We're getting to the wheel. Jason?
Yes, absolutely worth talking about.
Static?
No, but I think we made it worth talking about. This was a good discussion.
I like that. Yeah.
Yes.
We all kind of
Yeah.
brought something different. Yeah, I think it was worth talking about, and more so the mindset of the 90s hyping this movie up to the point that it got an 8.3. Like, yeah, I think that's worth talking about. And I think there was a lot of discussion to be had about this movie.
Josiah,
All right.
Josiah has an answer. He misunderstood the question. Go ahead,
Oh.
Josiah. He said yes, it is worth talking about.
Thank you. I'll get that figured out. It's a weird system I'm using.
I mean, it's kind of a funny bit.
It is kind of funny. We should just do it this way from now on. Josiah talks, and then one of you interpret for me. Butcher the game of telephone. Oh, great wheel of movies. I apologize deeply for interfering in your list last week. You gave us American Beauty as a punishment for this week, and I will not edit the list again until necessary. If there are only 2 choices on the wheel, I will not change the list. I promise you, great wheel. Please forgive me. You taketh as much as you giveth. Now, please give us our next movie. What is it? Please be one of mine. Please be one of mine. Son of a...
Oh, hell yeah. I
Warriors!
love the Warriors. Great movie.
Yo, yo,
Great movie.
another one of mine, dude.
Excellent.
Another one of mine, dude.
I want to be on that panel too. I love that movie.
You're going to be on it, pal. I love the Warriors. I hate the Warriors. It's a love-hate thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I can see that.
But
I can see that.
I hated the song at the end. I forget what it was. In the City, whatever.
In the City by the guy from the Eagles. What's his name? John something.
John Cougar Mel. No, not that
yeah.
guy. Yeah.
Yeah.
But this movie.
John Walsh. John Walsh.
John Walsh. No, this movie had so much badass stuff to it that, like, the cheesy elements, y'all are about to see. And look on the channel tonight. All right, look on the channel tonight. We will have the movie downloaded for you to watch. It's the exact copy we're going to be watching. The Warriors. I don't have the year posted on there, but don't worry, we'll get all that
74,
info.
I think.
74.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think.
Yeah,
I want to say,
I think
but I'm not positive.
It might be 70 or 71. I put this movie on the list because this movie for me was one of the 3 or 4 movies in my high school years that was really important to me, alongside like Fight Club and American History X. This movie is
Oh, the Warriors
so
was your
cool.
pick.
Yeah, it was. Yep.
Okay. Damn, you get 2 picks in a row.
Yeah,
Don't you feel special?
Hey, what? The wheel is
Rigged.
blessing me, guys.
Rigged.
The wheel loves you. The wheel hates
Yeah, it
me.
Yeah.
So stupid. Why would I question the wheel? Stupid, stupid, stupid. Anyways,
I am the wheel.
what the? Guys, thank you all for watching tonight.
We hear you.
We're doing this on Mondays. Now, I do got to say, we might have to move the time up to 9 p.m. Because I'm getting a new schedule at work. Either that or move it to another day.
9 p.m. every time zone.
Every it's a universal. It's a universal.
Central.
9 p.m. Central. It's 8 p.m. Central now that we start the show. 9 p.m. Central. We might have to move it up an hour. Unless we want to rename it to like Thursday Night Movie Club, which doesn't have a good ring to it at all. I think it has to be Mondays.
I think an hour later is fine with me.
We're going to do an hour later, and it's not necessarily next week. We'll announce it. I'll put a post on the channel All right, don't worry, there will be warning unless you're not paying attention. Anyways, follow the Telegram channel. Follow this channel. Give it a thumbs up, but follow the Telegram channel to watch the movies that we're going to be watching and discussing the following Monday. Thank you for watching. Jason, plug yourself. Go.
Yeah, I am Jason. Come to Instagram, JSN Shoal. I always make multiple posts about the movies we're about to cover. So if anyone wants to reach out or contact me, and by extension Nick or anybody on the panel, just hit me up there on Instagram.
Excellent. Josiah, anything you want to plug?
Oh, geez.
Hey, yeah, you deprecate yourself again, you're banned, all right, brother?
I didn't hear what you said, but it sounded like self-deprecation, and you better stop. All right?
Yeah.
We love you, Josiah. You bring a lot to this panel. Static, go.
You can find me on Static Age at Static Age Show on YouTube.
Excellent. Watch his stuff. And, of course, I'm Nikki. This is Headchasm. This was Monday Movie, Monday Night, Monday Club, Monday Movies, Club, Movie Club, Monday. Join us next Monday at 8 p.m. Central. Unless it's announced it's different. All right, that's it. That's the show. Okay. Watch the movie. I'm posting The Warriors tonight. It's going to be on there. That's all. That's the panel. What do you think of that?
Come out to play. Warriors.
Oh, man. I switched to cans. I should have switched to bottles for the...
Yeah, there you go. Yeah.
It's kind of cutting
got
my
some
fingers.
bottles.
Shit.
We gotta bop our way back to Coney.
Ow! Ow! All right. Good night, everybody. That's it. Get out of here. Scram.
I used to
End.
hate Mondays. Now I love them.
What are you, Garfield? Do you like lasagna?
I do.
Somebody has